Okay, so thank you everybody, and I believe you can see my screen now.
Yes, yes,
Right,
we do. Yes, we do.
good. Right, so my name is Christabi Amponsah, and I'm a professor at Yorkville University in Vancouver, Canada, and I did this paper in collaboration with Tamara, who is a medical student at Ross University in the US. I'm in Canada and she is in the United States. Our topic mainly is on the selection of appropriate project management methodologies for emergency projects. And when we began looking at the topic, we realized that we could advance the topic of analytic hierarchy process in trying to do so. So for this paper, I will follow through with these 9 areas. You get brief introduction, and then we'll look at the motivation underpinning the study and the question that we are trying to address. And we look at the objectives. We will further consider some literature that underpins the paper, and then we will look at the design in terms of how it is, coordinated in the AHP. Then we will look at the results, limitations, and conclusions. Now, in our world today, you can see a whole lot of emergencies around us. It is not far-fetched to talk about COVID-19. Wherever you are, you might be feeling it. And the key issue here is that when catastrophe or some pandemic of a sort occurs, it has devastating consequences on man in general. You can look at the economic and the loss of human life. The United Nations, for instance, reports that as much as to almost $3 trillion globally are lost in the economy, and then almost 8,000 major disasters occur from time to time that affects almost 1.5 million lives. If you consider COVID alone, as at now, as I speak, we are close to 1.5 million people losing their lives within this short spectrum of its occurrence. Disaster in this context is referred to any form of natural disaster like tsunami and hurricanes and earthquakes and man-made ones that ranges from planned terrorist attacks like the 9/11 that occurred in the US a decade ago, bushfires and power outages, sometimes even chemical threats, biological threats, nuclear accidents, wars, and the like are all issues that have devastating consequences on the life of people. Now, when this happens, we will call upon the various agencies like the Red Cross and, United Nations, the Wing for Disaster Management in various country and international agencies to come to the aid of affected areas, just for the purposes of providing relief to help the deprived. And most emergency response efforts go into some form of developing, and repairing infrastructure projects of a higher magnitude. In the instance, there's always a coordinated effort in trying to prioritize the areas of these possessions. Now, when this happens, it requires a whole life cycle of emergency management to identify areas of weaknesses. And the major phases of emergency will include all forms of prevention and preparedness and response and recovery and mitigation. The role of government agencies at both local and state and federal levels are marshaled for the purposes of achieving these objectives. And by its nature of recurrence, most of such efforts often are action plan that it goes to mitigating, the emergencies that are, are affecting us. And for that matter, it requires some form of coordinated effort, but almost in most instances, it becomes difficult for us to be able to coordinate our efforts, and it ends up being organized in a haphazard manner. But we recognize that using appropriate project management methodologies and management practices can potentially improve the delivery of such projects along the project life cycle. Those of you who are in project management will recall that the project management book of knowledge, its application goes into knowledge scale tools and techniques, and it gives us the outputs. And our project management is accomplished through initiating and defining and executing and monitoring and control and the closure. Among the project lifecycle, there are several best practices of project management methodologies that can be utilized to successfully achieve the projects. We can talk about agile project management practice. We can talk about the Scrum, Kanban, the Scrubam, the Lean, the extreme project management methodology, the Waterfall, which is the traditional project management methodology, and the Prince2, and even the PMI itself has a way of doing it. So the problem, therefore, is how can we know the kind of methodology that is appropriate for each instance? And that leads to the question, what project management methodologies are appropriate for delivery of emergency projects? So the objective of this paper is very simple, to answer that question, and then also to help evaluate which elements of the methodologies are essential and adaptable and applicable and acceptable approach to manage the projects in emergency. The paper seeks to understand issues and challenges confronted by the emergency departments and to present potential solutions for management to identify similar issues and challenges, and to help in the form of developing some form of framework that will help the emergency departments to be able to, confront every task that comes their way when emergencies occur. The literature review is wide, but we recognize the fact that studies have been applied, in several areas using the analytic hierarchy process, starting from Dr. Sati of blessed memory and the effort he has made so far up to, this time, and how it can be used in various industries. The ANP techniques that was developed is multi-criteria decision analysis. That method helps in decision-making for the best decision to be made in the face of all complex programs consisting of multiple conflicts and internal criteria. The project management methodologies have been developed specifically to help address low success rates using the project-related knowledge. So in the literature, we try to, advance the application of analytic hierarchy process in trying to look at how best we can, have our, our life going well. Now, with regards to the design of the study, we try to extend the review of literature with the aim of determining the status of research of project management methodologies that helps us to identify the appropriateness for emergency work. We draw on the work of Simonovic in 2011 that provides us with the nature of disasters and emergencies, and also that helps in bringing out the interaction and interfaces in several systems, such as the environmental systems and human and communities, and bringing them together to be able to help us resolve issues that affect changes in infrastructure and the way things are done. Due to the unknown consequences and then the unknown impacts of disaster events in general, there is a lack of control, which puts any preparedness plan under extreme stress, or it renders them ineffective to the least. And post-disaster projects, especially those forms of reliefs that come up, are placed under some sort of equally extreme pressure due to the time factor. When disaster happens, it looks like we need a very short time to do so many things. So we can look at COVID at the moment, and now that the vaccines have been developed, we want to see how to be able to distribute them. I believe that the appropriation of analytic hierarchy process and these methodologies could be able to help the distribution agencies. Now they are calling upon the military all over the world to assist. And it is time we turn to some of these methodologies that could aid us in resolving issues that affect the way we lead our life. As we are aware, the ANP follows certain sequence, and we can talk about how we synthesize this. We do the calculations, we look at the consistency ratio, and then we calculate the maxes, alpha maxes, and then we go from there. So for our research design, we set up and we identify a couple initially of the project management methodologies that could be used. And we had 5 of them that could as well be, segmented and categorized into other areas. So the diagram that you see gives us an indication of how, we proceed in terms of looking at the, pattern for which the study is designed. There are few limitations to this, and the fact that this is ongoing project, we have not concluded, and we are now in the stages of collecting data that will help us to be able to advance the study and then be able to make it available to agencies and organizations that may be interested in doing it. So the present study has some limitations. The choice of the research procedure meant total coverage of all relevant empirical research of project management framework has not been achieved. And papers may therefore have been included that did in fact address project management methodologies, but because of conceptual ambiguity have not been included. We also, consider the fact that the AHP is flexible and systematic, and it can help us to be able to produce robust and reproducible efforts that will help us. So in conclusion, we think that it is appropriate to advance this study. We are still in the, initial studies, and be able to, marshal the resources within the methodologies and also the power of AHP to be able to, advance the study. So that is how we form and we layer out this study. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for Dr. Christine's work and his co-author. I think it's great work. So it's full of importance for the emergency project management. So thanks very much. So questions and answers. So dear friends, so if you have any questions, you can ask.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for your presentation. But I have 2 questions. In your representation, you mentioned the advantages and the characteristics of AHP methods, but there are many other decision-making methods to choose, and is AHP naturally the most suitable? Is there any comparison with other methods? Could you tell me more about it? And it seems that only the method is given, but the criteria system and the evaluation results of the methods in emergency are not given. How do you show that the method is feasible and effective? Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Zane. Yes, certainly you are right. If you come to the point of deciding and choosing the kind of, framework to use for research, you try to go into areas and find out which one is applicable for this instance. We try to look at other methodologies, but they are fall short. But what immediately comes to mind is the fact that there are several parameters to deal with, and there are various levels within this framework that we develop. And we could not identify any powerful, system that we can use in trying to make decision out of it. In fact, the AHP has come out to be one of the most powerful, systems and research methodology that could be used in instances where you have multiples of issues to do with, and you have several criteria to consider. And that is the underlying issue for which we decided to select this particular methodology. However, if there's anyone among the team here that you think that there's something that can be used that is powerful than the AHP, we are more than happy to welcome your suggestions, and we'll make comparisons to that and then see the way forward. Thank you.